Hey guys, this is Mr. Gianelli. Just wanted to kind of give you a basic tutorial of the Unreal Engine and what it is and kind of how to get started. So it can be a little bit overwhelming at first. You got a few different things going on here. This is your modes right here, and this is a bunch of stuff that you can kind of place in your level. Stuff that is useful. It's kind of like a bunch of pre-made stuff, some visual effects, some physics, other things. You don't really need to worry about this too much. The one you're probably going to be using the most is like basic shapes, geometry, like cubes. There's also some geometry that you can get a little bit more detail with, but some of this stuff can also be really buggy, so you kind of got to watch out. And then also landscapes are also very useful, and that's how we can kind of fill in our world with like a terrain. Down here you have your content browser. These are the assets. An asset is just anything that goes into your game. It could be a code. It could be a static mesh, something like a 3D model. Skeletal mesh, which is a 3D model that has a skeleton so it can move. It could be materials and textures to go on your models, all sorts of stuff. And as you can see right here, there's already a bunch of stuff that in the starter content, there's already a bunch of stuff. So as you can see, there's a pillar, and you can throw that into your level. And it looks kind of plain, but you can start throwing those in there. And then over here is the details panel. So if I click on this, whatever object I click on, it's going to give me the information. It's going to say, okay, this is the static mesh it's using. This is the material. And if I wanted to go in, I could change this material to brick, clay, or, oops, maybe, I don't know, let's try cobblestone. And now you can see that you get pretty good looking textures right here. It looks almost like they have crevices in them, and it kind of, the way the light hits it, it almost looks like it's actually got indents and that sort of thing. In reality, it doesn't, and we'll learn more about that later. Those are called normal maps and tessellation. But for now, just know that you can get some really cool effects with materials, and we're going to learn a lot about that later in the year. So let's kind of get started. There's also up here your world outliner, and that's going to be just the stuff that's in your game that's already currently in your level. So this is like the available assets. These are the assets that are currently already in your level. This is the sky sphere. This is the thing that goes in the sky that makes it look like clouds. It's wrapped around this entire thing. This is your fog, which you can, if you turn it on and off, you might be able to see a difference. A little bit. There's a skylight, which kind of provides kind of the ambient light. Some of that stuff has to be baked. I guess that's about it. Oh yeah, world settings. These are also pretty important. Students often forget about this stuff. This is just kind of like important stuff in the world. So you can, well, don't mess with that. You can make some changes to like the colors in your world and some of the physics. Like you can adjust gravity. Like right now gravity's off, so if I play the game, that happens. So I would just take off into oblivion. But you can adjust the scale of it if you want to make it like the moon. One of the really important things under world, remember details and worlds are two separate things. World settings is if you go right here into game mode, right now the game mode says none. Let me just click on this selected game mode here. If I change this to third person game mode, you can see that I can choose all these different settings. Which character or pawn is going to be used? Right now it's a third person character. What's the heads up display that I'm going to be using? What about the controller, the game state, the player state? If you're a spectator, what is it? What's going to happen? So all these settings, if you click on the magnifying glass, you can actually go to each of these. And some of them don't have anything right now. There's nothing there for HUD or player's controller. But if I click on the third person character, I do have a character. And I don't even have to put him in the game. I don't have to drag him into my level because it already is telling him where to go, that I'm going to use him. And there's this little thing right here called a player start, which you can pull up from your modes, which tells him where to start when I hit play. And there he is, my third-person character. Now, if you double click on the third-person character, you will see a bunch of stuff that is kind of confusing, and we'll kind of get into as we go throughout the year. But this is basically the code that is being used to determine how the character looks, how he moves, the animation, the movement. You can adjust the speed if you click on character movement here, and then you go in the details and you type in speed. You can now change his walking speed from 300 to, let's say, 3,000. You can make his jump height from 600 to, let's say, 6,000. And then acceleration is another one that has a lot to do with it. 2048, let's do 4096. So now when this guy runs around, he's gonna, well, it's kind of a small area, but he's gonna be kind of like Superman. And he can jump around very high. Not something I probably want to have my character do, but just know that it's pretty easy to make little changes like that. In the beginning, you still have a lot of leeway to make changes to your level without having to completely know how to program and all that stuff. For now, I don't want my character to jump that much, so I'm just going to change that back to going to character movement and just make sure he can go a little less than that. But I'll keep him fast. Why not? So let's have a little bit of fun. Let's go ahead and stick a landscape in here, and we'll do that by going into our modes. I know you can't see that, but that's modes right there. And let's just type in landscape, and there it is. So I'll just drag it out here, and you can see that right now that grid line goes a little bit above my little room here. So I'm going to just drag it down a little bit so until those green lines disappear. And if I go up in the sky, and you probably don't know how to navigate yet, but I'll be going over that. You can see this kind of goes around like that. You can make adjustments to it, how many quads you want, so it can be really small. Let's just go ahead and start with that for now. Let's keep it at 1x1 sections, 8x8, 57. Sure, just go ahead and use those settings, and we'll just go ahead and change the material to, I think it comes with grass, so we'll just go ahead and say M ground grass, or if that doesn't show up, just pick one, it doesn't really matter. Click create, and we should, you know what, mine didn't, oh yeah, there it goes. I was going to say that grass shouldn't take that long. So there we have some grass, and you might be saying, well, that looks stupid, it's got a bunch of squares. That's going to go away later when we build everything. Don't worry about what that means for now, just accept it. Let's go ahead though and sculpt a little bit. So in the modes, if you go to here, this third one, landscape, and sculpt, you can go ahead and just, I'm going to bring the brush size down a bit. Tool strength, fairly low, maybe 0.2. Let's make that brush a little smaller. And then if I click now, you can see that I can raise up the terrain. If I hold down shift, it'll actually go the opposite direction. So I can make little valleys and stuff. And now when I hit play, hopefully that's not too loud, my character can walk around and get stuck. So, but yeah, feel free to kind of take some time to experiment with that. Again, click to make higher, shift to go lower. Let's give him a little ramp there so he can kind of slowly make his way out. And you can just have some fun, just kind of letting your character run around, explore. And again, once you hit build, those little seams between the little segments will disappear. So other than that, I would encourage you to take some time just to kind of get familiar with it. Generally, you want to go back to here if you want to move around and add stuff. When you're in landscape mode, things are a little bit different. So just go to this place here. You can try maybe adding some props and just kind of seeing, what you can do here. Play with the terrain. There's some rocks and stuff. Try changing the materials. So if you want to click on anything like this, remember you have to go to details, not world. And instead of copper, we can make this gold. Oops. See that nice gold texture? Very, very high quality. The materials that come preloaded here are beautiful. And that's about it. When you're all done, if you want to see what it's going to look like, just go ahead and hit the build button, and that'll take, it's a pretty small level, so it shouldn't take too long. The bigger your level, the longer this takes. Eventually, you might get to the point where this would take 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes. But because it's small, you'll see that those seams now disappear. And we got the beginnings of a level with a character who should be able to run pretty fast. Not too bad. That's it. Hopefully this kind of familiarizes you guys a little bit with how to start this, and good luck.